Welcome back to the High Ticket Systems podcast, where we talk about all things client acquisition, scaling, marketing, sales, AI, and everything else in between. Everyone, please welcome the one and only Cari Hartman, founder and CEO of Trust Engage. Cari, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is great.
More than welcome. Yeah, really excited to have you on. And for the people who may not already know, haven't done their research, please give them some background on exactly who you are and what your company, Trust Engage, does best.
Yeah, so I'm Cari Hartman. I've been doing affiliate marketing, performance marketing for the past 19 years, I think it is now. I got in this space working for a spy tool for email marketing, and decided that there was probably a lot more money to be made actually doing the marketing. So I've been in that space a long time, and I started Trust Engage about 3 years ago. Finally had the courage to go on my own, go solo. Uh, really looked back. My company, Trust Engage, with a focus on email, we are actually customer acquisition experts. We run ad campaigns. We broker them to traffic sources, and we have an internal media buying department. And we also manage abandoned cart data for e-commerce pages.
What is it you don't do?
Exactly. Yeah. I
What
guess you could look
it,
at us as an agency, an acquisition
of
agency.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the typical client who you find works best with what you guys offer, how would you best describe the fit you're typically looking to partner up with?
Yeah, I would say it's a brand that's looking to grow their customer acquisition efforts with affiliates, and also to streamline their funnel, and
Mhm.
make it convert for users that, if you're spending money to buy paid media, you want to make sure that you're completely optimizing that and getting as much back end revenue as possible. So we help with that.
Yeah, brilliant. So in regards to the scale of the company, just so the audience can understand, you mentioned you started, sorry, you said 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yep, 3 years ago. How are things currently looking now in terms of head count, size of the company? Like, how has that scale been since then?
Yeah, we keep a pretty lean team. I always call it a lifestyle business. But we have a pretty sizable ops team overseas, and a guy that manages that, a media buyer, internal media buyer that runs our other media buying partnerships, and then myself. So it's really a small team and, accounting and stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, in today's day and age, it pays to be lean, and there's so many things now that we can leverage AI workflows, efficiencies. We obviously have the whole offshore market that's opened up now that we've gone into the virtual landscape. How, if we go back to before you started Trust Engage and before you had the idea of it, walk us through where you were, exactly what position you were in, and what was that light bulb moment when you really decided that this did have potential? And then talk us through going in sort of all in from there.
Yeah, I was working with a friend of mine, and I kind of was with her the whole time that we were building it up. And I realized at the end of the day it wasn't mine. So, uh, been on kind of all sides of the business, and really, the business that we're in, performance marketing, it rewards high risk, high reward. That's kind of how it is, and I'm a fairly risk averse person, so I think I've always just wanted to work for others and learn and be behind the scenes. And there was a certain point where I just realized that I wanted to own the business.
It's such a key leverage point, especially when you're a thought leader in this space and you have that experience, and it's the most, it is always the riskiest move, right? But it sounds like things really lined up, and it did make as much sense as it can in that position. Since then, how have you seen the market evolve, like the technology, AI coming into the space? How have things changed in your perspective since when you started to the day and age we're now in just a few years later?
I think that AI has been a real game changer with making the actual ad creatives. So there's less differentiation between media buying teams because media buying successfully and driving performance always hinges on the creatives. And now with like all of these video AI tools, it's much, much, much easier for anyone without any real skill to just put in a prompt and do it. So then I feel like the biggest lever or leverage that you can have is like with cash flow and the ability to scale with teams. So money becomes it's kind of like the hidden component that nobody talks about that drives the whole business is just cash flow and the ability to like be able to factor and float money.
I think that's really key what you mentioned about obviously utilizing the AI tools and now creatives are that much easier so that literally anybody who can string a sentence together can begin producing content. But at the same time, there is so much AI slop, as we refer to it, right, out there. What is the biggest factor of differentiation that you typically see from, you've got that one side of the spectrum utilizing AI, it's a crutch, it's the slop versus something that's really put together to perform.
Well, honestly, it's also to do with like the budgets that you're able to secure from the brands themselves. So if you prove yourself and your traffic is quality, and you have some transparency and closeness with the advertisers that you're working with, um, they'll give you a higher payout, and then you have an advantage in the bidding, the auction.
Can you give the audience an example of typically how you've seen that play out?
Well, I've seen it play out in the fact that like I get approached by media buying teams all the time, like people that are overseas or may not have like a robust business development ar-
Mhm.
and they're like, "Can you introduce me to the buyer, the buyer, the buyer?" But like the buyer, I mean, for example, in like insurance lead gen, it's a buyer's market. So they have all of these people coming to them, pitching them constantly. And it's like, how do you really stand out? And I mean, the way that I've been able to do that is like with the thought leadership angle. I've been on LinkedIn since it started posting content. Now I see a lot more people sort of getting into that. And I do see some AI slop again, but it's like it's kind of gaming the algorithm, in a way, and if you can do that, then people at least recognize your name and see you like somebody from a Fortune 500 that like a major insurance carrier, they don't know who you are. They have 500,000 employees, so it's really standing out in the pack, makes a difference.
Yeah. And it's easy to do so when you have the right perspective and you understand what everybody else is doing. And instantly, when I'm, reading through my emails or looking on LinkedIn, you can just, the key for me is the double long hyphen. Whenever I see that double long hyphen, I just know when there's anything text, it's like, okay, that's just been spat out of some LLM. And if you can work around that and you can leverage AI to obviously operate at scale, to be automated, but also to be different from what everyone else is doing, that's when I can see a lot of potential in the marketplace and standing out becomes easier because you can see what everybody else is doing. How has that influenced the way you've grown this business? Obviously, you're an expert in client acquisition for your clients. How do you typically approach that process to onboarding new business yourself?
So I start with a vertical, and this is I don't use AI to do forward facing messaging ever. I mean, I might use to like if I want to edit it or just make sure everything's grammatically correct, but um, I use it for deep biz dev research. Like I use it to find companies that are buying leads and or acquiring customers in such and such vertical. Um, I build a pipeline using that, and then I try to just be myself when I approach these companies. And because I have an established presence, it typically works. That way, I'm reaching out from a genuine point of view and not like just slapping them with like some bot
Pitch.
message. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I
Yeah.
get 3 in a day, and I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
So
And it just goes straight to spam junk. And yeah, it's such a authentic approach that's going to be the one that stands out now. And in regards to the process that you've typically employed, tools, systems, software for, assessing that vertical, can you give the audience some context around what has typically worked best for you in that sort of outreach and biz dev phase?
yeah, so there's quite a few tools that you can use that will append data once somebody actually accepts your LinkedIn request. You'll get their corporate email. One that I use is called Datanize, but I don't know if they're still around. There's some other like tools that are similar that basically will give you the data that you need. Also, I recommend like trade shows that are specific to a vertical. Like I do attend a lot of the performance marketing events that are specific, but I feel like those are family reunions and I'm just seeing the same 30 people that I already know very well and communicate with on the daily. So the conferences that really stand out are going to like a Medicare agent conference or like you have to go where your customers are. So like because then they know you and then you stand out. Like if you just cold outreach on LinkedIn, it doesn't work nearly as well.
No. And there's such high return when you actually show up in person, when you're able to build that presence. And again, it's something that most people are not open to doing. And if you can leverage yourself in that position, but at the same time, know that you don't want to be attending the same trade show with the same 30 people, the same every time.
Yeah.
Um,
Like we went to an insurance agent conference called Medicare Con. I went to that and I saw maybe five of my competitors, but we call it like co-op
mm,
in our space because we can all technically work together, but we compete. So we
mhm.
all look around and see each other. You know, it's like I
Yeah.
see.
You know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's so funny because by the next year you'll see this 20 people and then everyone finds out about it and then it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
Like,
And you got to move on. You got to find another edge, right? And it typically when you're doing that research to find out, where it actually makes sense for you to show up. Can you walk us through? Obviously, I know you're utilizing these tools, and I know that there's going to be some automations and efficiencies in there. What typically determines an event that's worth showing up to? What's your criteria that needs to be ticked off for it to be genuinely worth showing up in person?
I think I have a lot of little side conversations with people in my network to see what the vibe is, and it basically if
Yeah.
I'm friends or close with somebody that is in that space, I would immediately just go and ask them like who's going to this, like who's showing
Yeah.
up, or I just research it on LinkedIn and see what companies are sponsoring. And it really, if you can triangulate the companies that are sponsoring and decide if they're a good fit for the customer target, like that's kind of the determining factor. The number of people, the venue helps also. There's I've gone to some shows that were so deep in the insurance agent world that I was like I don't know what to say here, a little fish out of water, but
Yeah.
at least hopefully I could win them over with my charm. So
Win them over with your charm. I mean, you gotta use what you have, right? It's one of those things where, in the age of AI technology, everybody can, eventually the tools you're going to be using now are going to be saturated at a certain point, right? And everybody's going to be using them, but that there's still yourself. You still have the power of being individually who you are. And when you think about your competitors in the space, like I going back to that example where you're at that same sort of event and you see, I know what's going on here. How do you typically differentiate yourself against the competition in this marketplace? Is there a specific unique mechanism you lean on?
I mean, to be honest, it's usually just knowledge of the space. I try to lead with that. And I know that those five other people that are at that show have the same knowledge. And we're sort of, there's room for us, like there's room for the top people kind of. So I don't really try to differentiate that much. In fact, like, they're being helpful by educating the customer base as well. So it's kind of like synergistic in a way.
Can you explain that and elaborate? They're being helpful by helping the customer base as well. How do you mean by that?
Like sometimes your audience, like say you have a 200 person insurance agency and they're getting pitched constantly leads, like
Hmm.
inbound phone calls. If you have, these other thought leaders in the space explaining how the business works and the KPIs and what we can do for them, it kind of helps you out like in the long term, because when you go to talk to that person, they already know sort of what the offering is.
Yeah, it's more. They have more awareness, right?
Yeah,
And
they're like, "Oh, you're just like this person, and you
yeah,
could do this for me." And I'm like, "Yes, exactly." So,
nice. You're
little
not starting
lady.
from zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Work
And that
smarter.
goes, yeah, it can go two ways, right? Because in today's marketplace, I mean, a recent example is what changed with Meta ads this last year, where, the algorithm updated and now everybody is getting the ads from your competitors if they don't click on and they don't proceed to follow through with your particular creative.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that, that's a double-edged sword because, if you can position yourself in the market, so you have the content available, you have uh the positioning, so when somebody doesn't, that they come to you and they're already at that level of awareness. But it's, how have you seen that across the initiatives you run? How have you seen that level of awareness develop, and what has been maybe some of the strategies or things you've implemented to take advantage of that?
Yeah, with media buying, it's an ever-changing, like, living organism. I would say, like, what it looks like from an ecosystem is there's all these, like, private groups on Telegram, for example, WhatsApp, of other media buyers, because it's such a difficult thing that even though we're all competing, we all talk about, "Oh, did you see, like, Facebook banned a bunch of accounts today," like, and stuff like that happens every day. It seems like there's something with a different ad platform and the changes they've made. Email marketing has gotten more difficult from a delivery
Yeah.
perspective.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but basically, like, it's a constant game of updates and trying to stay ahead of it. And there's various ways of doing that, but that's kind of like, I guess, if there's anything secret, not really, but the secret sauce of media buying.
Please tell us, Cari. We need the secret sauce.
Yeah, credit lines, accounts,
Yeah,
invoicing, reps at the platforms, that's kind of the that's it. I mean, and those all those things can be accomplished by going to trade shows as well. So,
right. And it's often the non-sexy stuff, right? It's the stuff that does require the reps. It does require the exposure, and it's just time at the end of the day. But it's interesting to hear that, although it is such a competitive marketplace, it brings you together with your competition because you're all kind of in the same boat, and
yeah.
it's one of those things, as you said, you've got to be forever keeping up with it because it's a forever an evolving beast that you
Mhm.
don't want to be left behind from. You've got to be always adapting and looking forward. How do you see this marketplace evolving now that we're in the age of AI, now that things are, compounding its exponential growth over the next, 5 years? I'm sure we have no idea what it's going to look like, but how do you see yourself positioning appropriately for this age of, such innovation and advancement?
I was having a conversation with my emailer, like he handles the data management part of our
Yeah.
business this morning, actually. And we were talking about leaning into that because media has gotten more expensive across the board. So, like, I think somebody was saying that Meta has gone up like 30% in the last year or something, the cost. I think that will continue. The media costs will continue to go up as everything's like sort of in a walled garden. And then with email marketing, the cost to inbox has gone up also. So like my mailer, he basically is having to send more to make the same amount of revenue, and the sending costs have gone up versus the revenue. So then we're looking at, okay, like let's find people who are paying all this money for their audience and help them get more value out of that audience. So we're leaning into managing abandoned carts and legacy data and all of that. I think that's the future.
And it's interesting because it takes away from the pure tech behind it, and it puts the leverage back on, again, being a thought leader in your space and having that authority and really using where you can have the largest amount of leverage as something that you can find a certain amount of control with, because there's going to be more updates, there's going to be more, you're exactly right, costs are going to forever increase, and it's trying to find those little pieces of security that you can invest into, and then taking each step from there.
Yeah,
So
the other big
yeah,
factor of how things are right now is like just the economy and how things are with running paid ads in general is like what's hot right now, what vertical is like working, and we see like the economy. We always know what's happening with the economy before the experts do because we're running
yeah, we
ads and
feel
we
it.
know what people are responding to. So,
Yeah,
um I see like home services is really doing well, getting more competitive. And it's still an industry that's not controlled by four companies. Like it's not an
yeah,
oligopoly yet. I'm sure that'll change.
yet.
Like as hedge funds invest more and more and roll
Hmm.
up services companies, but there's still a lot of competition driving that. And the mortgage industry, like refi, is absolutely not in a good place because interest rates are high, right? So like people are staying in their homes, so they're fixing their homes. So there's consumer demand that's high for windows, roofing, siding, HVAC, plumbing, all of that. Like that demand is high. And there's competition. So that's a really healthy market. Whereas you see like the loan space, refi, anything like that is not doing well because interest rates are still high. So
Yeah. And it comes in cycles, right? Because even though that's the case right now, eventually the tables are going to turn, and as we're at the forefront of being able to spot, what is doing well, and there's going to be a lagging indicator, as you said, when the hedge funds start investing into home services, that's slowly going to shift around. So it's always that game of hedging your bets and sort of riding the wave. But Cari, what, if anything, I mean, I know it's such an uncertain time, but in your business trajectory, even in your personal life, I'm always curious as to, the mind behind these machines that are running in the background. Over the next 12 months, what are you most excited about? Do you have anything that you're specifically looking to achieve? What, what's your vision for the next year or so?
my vision is to I've been looking at CTV a lot. It's kind of an emerging channel, even though it's old school because it's TV, it's new because it's
Yeah.
programmatic. So,
Yeah.
I want to grow that division of the business, and I just want to continue to partner directly with advertisers who own their customer audience, own the data, and scale that business as well.
Yeah. And your energy personally, and obviously the team you have behind you, where will most of your energy go to be making that happen? What's the game plan you kind of have in your mind for how you're going to approach that?
For me, it's primarily the biz dev side of things. That's always what I lead with. I'm speaking at a conference in Rome, a new affiliate conference.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah.
In the
So,
Colosseum?
yeah, I think that's where they're having it.
It gotta be. Come on. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I honestly just want to go to
Yeah.
Rome in November. It's lovely, but
Yeah.
yeah,
November. I remember I went to Rome in, I believe it was February, and it was just that nice medium, like beautiful temperature. But
yeah.
yeah, November is it summer over there?
No, it's cooled off by then. The tourists are
Yeah.
gone. It's
Yeah.
lovely. That's
You can
where
wear a jacket.
yeah, it's jacket weather. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's something to look forward to for sure. Cari, I do wish we had more time. Where can people find you if they want to explore more about what you do and how you do it?
I'm LinkedIn, of course, as where I do my business from, and keep a presence going. I'm very active with Link Unite, which is a women's group. So Queens of Digital Marketing is a charitable organization that helps um, female trafficking victims get jobs, like careers in the industry. And then I'm on Instagram, but that's mostly gardening content. So that's like a hobby for me. I'm not
Yeah.
monetizing it, but it's fun. So
Right. You got to have that balance, hey. And yeah, audience, you heard it here first. Cari, thank you so much for coming. This has been super insightful. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on. Audience, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.
thanks, Ryan.